You're standing in front of your team and you just came from yet another leadership meeting. You have a new initiative to roll out. And somewhere between that conference room and this one, you've realized you can't fully explain why this initiative matters any more than the 7 other things already on everyone's plate. But now you have everyone's attention, so you smile. Then you nod, take a deep breath, and start talking. Welcome to Strong Face. Welcome to Strong Face, the podcast for leaders caught between caring for their people and enforcing a system that wasn't built to do so without losing themselves in the process. I'm your host, Tamara Stewart, and in each episode, I take a real situation leaders face at work and show what's actually broken and what's yours to fix. So let's talk about the tea, y'all. The tea is Tamara's never gonna spill it, okay? I'm not talking about any one company. I'm not naming names. I'm not divulging my clients' innermost secrets. I'm keeping it real cute and classy. Why? Because that's the professional thing to do, and that's how we do it over here at Strong Face. So at the heart of this episode, what we're talking about is a dynamic that I see in workplaces all the time. It's when everything is important and a priority, and therefore nothing is important. How does this play out? Well, what happens is the manager who's in the middle has to sell priorities that they didn't necessarily set to team members who are already overwhelmed without being able to answer the one question that everybody is thinking. What exactly are we going to stop doing? Be honest, this isn't always malicious. Sometimes leaders are also caught in their own version of the squeeze. But the impact on the middle is real, regardless of the intent. How does it look, you may ask? It looks like that priority list that keeps growing but never shrinks. Last quarter, it was 5 things. This quarter, it's 8. And nobody has officially retired anything from the list. They just quietly stopped asking about the old ones until they suddenly do again. It looks like your team's project tracker where everything is marked urgent. The whole column is red. And your people have had to develop their own private system off to the side just to figure out what to actually work on first. It looks like when you are asking your team to make something a priority and you can't really justify or explain why, you just know that the man above you, the boss above you, the leader before you said that this is now the most important thing that the company is working on, so you guess you got to go all in because there's a lot on the line. When I've been on teams like that, sometimes I would look at my leader and I would wonder, do they really get it or am I the crazy one? Like, they do clearly see that we've been doing all of this stuff. No one else has been added to the team. And here they come with a smile on their face telling us that there's another initiative to mobilize after or around. And I'm looking at them like, do you see what I see? What's going on? I'm tired. I'm stressed. I'm overwhelmed. We're doing all this stuff. I don't really know why we're doing all this stuff. I can't tell you what's the most important. I can't tell you who's seeing any of the stuff. I can't even tell you why it matters. I just know that I'm coming in here and I'm cranking out all of this work and it seems like nobody notices. That's something that team members frequently feel when the list just keeps adding and adding and adding and adding and adding to it, but there aren't any people coming, there aren't any more budget dollars coming. And then you get into this place where you become a workhorse and things like professional development go out of the window because we don't have time for professional development because we're cranking out all of this work. So when this occurs, what are the things that you can actually do as a leader to protect not just your team, but also your bandwidth, capacity, and energy? The first thing you got to do is you got to get honest with yourself. Before you walk into a room to convince anybody else, you have to know the difference between what you believe and what you are delivering. And sometimes, if I'm being completely honest, what you have to deliver is not in alignment with what you believe. It is possible to deliver something that you don't fully believe in. Leaders have to do it every day. It's a part of the job. But please, whatever you do, don't confuse the two. Because clarity internally gives you steadiness when you have to get in front of a bunch of people and sell the vision when you haven't fully bought in yourself. The other thing that you should do is you should ask the question up to your leadership before your team asks it of you. And that question is, what do we stop? What do we pause? What do we slow down to make room for this? It's a legitimate leadership question, and it doesn't always come with an easy answer. But if you can't get a real answer, that's an important data point too. And it tells you how to frame the conversation with your team honestly about what you should lean into, what you should back away from, and where you can make adjustments within your sphere of influence and control that's going to be for the good of the whole team, while also meeting the demands of your leadership. And this one right here, it's going to hurt and stretch just a little bit, but it might be one of the most important things that I'm going to say all day. You got to give your team the truth without giving them the chaos. And sometimes as a leader, the truth means you have to stand up and say, I don't really know. Let's figure this out together. I'm open to your feedback. Everything appears to be a priority, but let's go back and assess the work and figure out what can we actually put on pause? What are the things that aren't necessarily top of mind right now? What is the low-hanging fruit that we can cut without a whole lot of impact to the organization? You as a leader don't have to pretend that you have all the answers. It's very easy to say, here's what I know, here's what I'm still finding out, here's what won't change, and here's what I need to figure out. And get your people's feedback because they may have questions that you haven't thought to ask. Being 100% honest with your team as much as you can builds trustworthiness and alignment in ways that false certainty surely cannot. And at the end of the day, when you're leading a team, credibility is the long game strategy. So there are times when I work with leadership teams, and again, we're not slipping and telling tea, we're just talking about patterns here. There are times when I work with leadership teams and they have really robust goals and strategies for their divisions or for their organization. And it may look like there are 5, 10, 15, 20 even, I've seen, strategic goals. And what I say to leaders when they're doing that is go to the frontline employee, the one that you may not know necessarily by name, walk up and down the aisles, go into the hall, go by the water cooler, and ask a random person on your team what they do every day and how it fits into one of the things that's on the list. And if you can't find clear alignment across everything that you have on your strategic list of goals with what your people are doing every day, then it might be time to cull down that list. A lot of times to make us look like we're busy, to make us look like we're productive, we have these really long lines of goals and strategies and objectives and things that we need to accomplish. But if people can't recount what they're doing and how it matters, then the list is too long. You should really have 3 to 5 max key strategic objectives for your team to go after in any given year. And if there's a new shift in priority or an emerging market that's taking place or an opportunity that's come up, it's time to go back to the list and figure out what can be put on hold right now so that we can mobilize the resources that we have to go after the things that are most important. It's not necessarily about having a shotgun approach where we take a look at the wall and we shoot everything at it and we hope that something sticks. It's about precision and being able to lock in on the things that are going to move the needle forward with a sniper-like accuracy. Some of you may be thinking, why haven't leaders already stepped up and intervened and interceded and advocated for their people? And there are a couple of reasons that we don't always put everything on the line as soon as we're finding something out. Some of us are slower processors. It takes us a minute to take the information that we just heard and process it for ourselves, digest it, figure out what it's actually going to mean to implement on the ground. And the way that corporate structures are built, it doesn't always allow for processing in the moment or even processing over time. As a leader that's led teams across a multitude of industries, organizations, I've gone into meetings to be briefed on something and been told that I need to roll it out to my entire team by 2:00 the same day. So it's not like you necessarily have a whole lot of time to unpack it, sit with it, digest it. You get this list of talking points. It's telling you what you have to go say. You got to hit all of these things, and you got a hard deadline that you got to get it done. And if your people are scattered geographically, so if they're on different shifts, you've got to figure out how you're going to bring everybody together to be able to deliver that message within the specified time frame. It doesn't really allow for you to sit with all of your feelings about it or even figure out how it's applicable and practical to implement it on the ground. You've just gotten your set of go-dos and you're going out here to do it. So that's one reason. I think the other reason is when you work in organizations, you have to balance what hill you're willing to die on, as people say. Everything is not a go to the mattresses situation. You kind of want to read the tea leaves and figure out, okay, where is this new initiative coming from? How far up is it coming? Is it a stakeholder situation? Is it a board-driven decision? Does the leader above you or the leader above them even have any say in the ability to be able to change what's coming down? Or is it just rolling downhill and every level is absorbing some level of shock and some level of tension because the go-do has been rolling for the whole last 2 days or been rolling because the CEO, went to a conference and got really inspired and now it's become a whole initiative that nobody knew about 6 weeks ago. These things actually happen. And the other thing is people who are visionaries and people who are sometimes leading organizations, they have the big ideas. And so they're able to see the innovation, to see what's coming, to see the trend, to try to get out ahead of it. They have big thoughts about what direction that organizations or technology or the trend needs to go in. But when it comes down to the tactical application of implementing it on the ground, that's usually held with a different group of people who are more tactical, people who are more project-driven, project management focused, implementation ready, operational leaders more so than visionary strategic thinkers. And so sometimes there's a disconnect between the strategic arm in an organization and the tactical operations arm in an organization. And if you have leaders who haven't thought about what it actually takes to get something done, they'll be out here generating ideas. They'll be out here coming up with the newest, hottest, freshest thing to do at the expense of the people who are actually having to figure out how to get that thing done. There's got to be a dynamic tension and a balance between your strategic body and your operational body. They've got to work together as arms on the same physical body, which is the organizational body. And if they don't work hand in hand, you get out of alignment, you get out of joint, you've got innovation that's happening faster than policies can keep up with. You've got people that are burnt out and tired. And if the leader is not at the highest level, is not open to feedback and they don't pause before rolling something out, then it becomes like an avalanche. And as the ideas come, they just pick up momentum and they roll over people. And then you just get swept up. And that ends up leading to a lot of organizational churn. People are in and out. This is some of the reason why you see startups, people fizzle out quickly because there's a lot of change that's happening and a lot of vision that's being chased, but the processes and the procedures and the policies are not foundationally formulated enough to be able to keep up with that level of movement. So those are some of the reasons why it happens. And if you are a leader that leads people, but you also have people that you answer to, you have to make a decision about, okay, do the people who are above me that are coming up with this, do they have a real true understanding? Do they have their finger to the pulse of what's happening across the organization, within my team, within the set of constraints that I have? That's the first question that you should be asking is, does my leader know what all we have going on? And ideally, that would be something that would be discussed in one-on-one meetings that you're having with your leader. They should have a good finger, at least on the overall operational pulse of what you have going on. They should know if you have vacancies. They should know if you have people that are on disability or long stretches of vacation, or they should know if you've got some new initiative that you just added to the things that you're doing because you're giving them updates on some type of cadence in your one-on-one meetings. But if they don't have a true finger to the pulse of what's happening, this is a great time to let them know, hey, here are some things that we are currently working on. And so I want to make sure that as we are taking on this new initiative, we really gut check and align around where the balance is and whether or not there's some things that can move off the plate. That's one thing that a leader of teams should definitely be doing. The other thing is making sure you're lockstep with what's going on in your team so that you can advocate appropriately. If there are things that people are doing and they're not clear about why they're doing it, they don't see the value in it, this is a great time to lean in with your team to figure out, are there things we can pause? Are there things we can stop? Are there things that used to make sense 6 months ago, but now the demand for it has waned? There was a time when I was generating a report in a company where I worked some years ago, and the amount of labor that it took to generate this monthly report, not just from me, but from the people across the organization that I was having to tap to get information, was absolutely astounding. It took me 40 hours a month, so 10 hours a week, reaching out to people, building the deadline, doing the ask, getting all of the information back, culling it all together, making sure that it was accurate and adequate for what the report needed to have in it, and then actually building out the report. Very manual process. It took me 10 hours a week to do it, and I was tapping no fewer than about 15 people across the organization to get it done. And I was turning it out every month, and everyone was expecting to get the ask each month for me to get the information from them. But then I did this thing one time. I stopped sending out the report, and I waited for about 4 months to see if anybody missed it. And lo and behold, not one single solitary person on a distribution list of about 60 people reached out to me to say, hey, where's that report? And that's when I knew that it was a low value ad. And that's when I knew that I needed to stop doing it. So gutsy as I went into a leadership meeting with my leader's leader, and all of their peers. And as I was talking through an overview of the work that was going on within my area, and I was actually responsible for doing this report myself, I had the report up there and I had a big X on it. And when I got asked about it, I said, how many of you realized that I stopped sending this report out 4 months ago? And none of the leaders in the room raised their hand. And I said, that report was taking me 40 hours a month to do. I was tapping 15 people across the entire division to get it done, asking them to send me details that took them countless hours, I'm sure. And all of the leaders for the whole division are in this room. All of you are on this distribution list. Not one of you have asked me in the last 4 months where the report is. And all of you have just indicated to me that you had no idea that the report wasn't coming out. So the question is, why are we still sending this report? Very gutsy move, but it worked and we killed that report. And sometimes you have to be willing to raise things to your leaders in a way that sheds new light on what it takes, the lift that's required to get that thing across the finish line. There are instances where leaders aren't fully aware of what all it takes to get something done. They're just accustomed to seeing it. And if they don't have someone that's willing to push back respectfully, and I'm not suggesting that you just stop doing something that may be critically important. That was a calculated risk that I took, and it worked out in my favor. But you got to be willing to push the envelope just a little bit to be able to make the point. And what that ended up leading to was, okay, well, if that report is taking that much time and tapping that many people, what else are we out here doing that nobody's reading that's low value to no value add? What else can we stop doing? Because when you get comfortable with stopping stuff, you open up capacity for what's possible. What I want to leave you all with as we get ready to close is that there are definitely going to be times where you are going to be asked, your team is going to be asked to do something, and you can't quite clearly see how it ties back to the bigger picture. And there's sometimes a temptation to not gently push back, to just accept the work, to nod, to smile, to be agreeable, because we want our teams to have value. We want our teams to look like they are the ones that can get things done. We want people to see and recognize and appreciate the good work that's coming out of our area. But when we take on things for the sake of taking them on, and we don't have clear alignment about why it's important, why it's a priority now, when we haven't fully assessed what else is on our people's plates, we don't do ourselves or our people a service. In fact, we do them a disservice. And that's not to say that you won't end up taking on the initiative. But when you get in front of your people and you're making the case for why this is where their focus and their attention should go now, you're able to do it without performative conviction. You're able to do it because you've calculated what it takes to get it done. You are mindful of what they currently have on their plate. You can tie back the new initiative to something because you've asked the right questions of your leadership. You've sought the clarity. You've tried to gain the understanding. And if you're unable to do that, then you at least have the wherewithal to stand in front of your people and say, this is a new emerging initiative and I don't have all the answers right now, but here's my commitment to you. I'm going to go get what you all need to be successful and to be set up to be successful to be able to get this done. And hopefully you'll pause and let them tell you what they need. You'll ask of them what they need. You'll have the difficult and hard conversation about what can stop, what work can stop, what is low value add, low hanging fruit, and not take it personal when they tell you that your pet report or your pet project, nobody's reading it. Nobody cares. If a tree fell in the woods and nobody heard anything, didn't make a sound, sometimes that happens with our pet reports, and we just have to be honest about it. Systems are designed by people, and people are flawed. We all have issues. And so this podcast is not to act like everything is going to be all great and rosy in leadership. This is to talk about real issues that impact real leaders every day. And there are going to be times where you have to advocate for your people and it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to push back. You're going to have to ask hard questions to be able to equip your people with the things that they need so they can be set up to be successful. We all have to decide what kind of person we're going to be, what kind of human being we're going to be, and what kind of leader we're going to be. And hopefully there's a clear alignment across your personhood, your humanity, and your leadership style, recognizing that people are leading other people who are flawed. And they may have questions. They may not see the clear alignment across the thing. You may have to be the connecting point to bridge the gap for them. And if you're not willing to have difficult discussions, you're not willing to make a decision and say, this is the priority for us right now. If you're the type of leader who just says yes to every ask because you want your team to feel like they're contributing, or you want to feel like your team is contributing, I challenge you to take a moment, take a pause, take a beat. Think about the impact to your team when we keep adding and adding and adding, but we're not taking anything away. And ask yourself, when was the last time that everything being a priority made it very clear to you where your attention and your focus should be? And until next time, take care of yourself and the people that you lead. Thanks for listening to Strong Face. If this episode resonated with you, or it sounds like a familiar story you've heard from a friend at happy hour, subscribe and share it with them. We can continue to unpack these things together.